beer sound.
Hello, Internet. My name is Sean Michael Patrick Thompson, as always, your host of Drink to the Past, the only podcast where Krill unboxes a PS5 while I ask you to share and subscribe and stuff. I am joined by co-host and/or guests. That means Chris and Crow today, which I already mentioned because Crow's here.
Hello.
Yeah, so
Never been here before.
Getting off to a good start.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right.
I think so. Hi,
Sweet.
I'm Chris. Please don't vote now, because that's voter fraud. Audette.
Unless you're in Georgia.
Oh yeah, but dude, that's a runoff. They still got some stuff to work out. So
Yeah.
True.
You can still vote in Georgia, but only if you vote for no fires in Colorado.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. That's a good law to have in Georgia, is no fires in Colorado. All right. So for the Nooz'N'Booz today, Chris is going to take us through the Nooz'N'Booz so that I can stream some Halo, because there's some Halo-related stuff happened today, or this week. So
Sounds good to
that's
me.
pretty cool.
Huh.
So first, I guess we'll start with Sean drinks something stupid out of my awesome Halo cup that I got with the release of Halo 2 that used to have an Elite on it, and now it looks like you can kind of still see the Elite in there, sort of. It's been through the dishwasher a few times, but yeah, Slurpee cups are awesome. I wasn't sure exactly what kind of cocktail Master Chief would have gone with, but missing content, didn't I? Oh, I'm in Halo 2. Why am I in Halo 2? I picked the wrong game. I have to drink. That's...
While you're drinking, shall we start with what you playing?
Yeah, actually, what you're playing is probably good, because I've been playing several new things on a mysterious new thing. Yeah.
Been playing several new things on a mysterious thing.
Yeah. A
It's
mysterious... Yes, the new Atari... It's actually this Xbox. So yeah, I got myself an Xbox Series S at launch, because I'm so cool, which is kind of neat. So this is the first time I've got a new Xbox at launch. It's pretty cool. I got, for size comparison, ye old Xbox 360. I got flames painted on my Xbox 360 to make it go faster. Somebody told me that works with race cars, so it should work with computer technology too, right?
I am a software engineer, and I can confirm that is the truth.
Mm-hmm. See? Yeah, so this is actually a pretty cool little console. It's actually been really awesome. I haven't played a ton with it yet, but I played just enough to get kind of a first impressions on the podcast here. So the load times are the big thing for this machine. Obviously, the frame or it does have some games that can theoretically go up to the 120 FPS as well, but I haven't tried anything that does that yet. The patch for Halo to make it go 120 FPS will come out, I think next week. So next week I should have some 120 FPS Halo impressions there. Stand on the red square. See if I can do this. Oh, look, I did it. Woohoo! Can I look? Yeah, so far it's been pretty cool. I haven't played a ton, like I said, but I played a little bit of Halo ODST, kind of just picked up where I was, which is kind of cool because I can pick up where I was on my cloud save from playing on my phone. And that just transfers straight over to the console. It's like when you start it up, it's like it takes 1 second to sync, and then you're good. So it's pretty cool. And then I also started Jedi Fallen Order, which is on Game Pass now because EA Play is on Game Pass, and that's actually really, really cool. I'm not. It's a kind of a last gen game now, which is weird because it came out, last year, but now we're in a new generation, so it hasn't wowed me with the graphics, but it still looks pretty good, and it runs really well, and it boots up in less than 10 seconds. because SSDs are cool. So,
SSDs are
yeah.
just fantastic.
Yeah, that's generally my first impression. I'm actually playing Halo right now on the Xbox Series S controller, which came with the console, which is kind of neat because I can just plug it in my PC as well, and then I can play with the battery door removed, which actually is one of the things that I would complain about this controller, is it for some godforsaken reason still uses AA's. And actually taking this out, like, significantly reduces the weight of the controller, and it's much more comfortable. Why is this shield thing still going? Oh, because I had to push A. I had to push A. We have to drink.
How does it compare to the Xbox One controllers? And likewise, a callback to one of our first podcasts, like a fucking year ago.
Yeah, I think that was the first time you were on. Or maybe the second. I don't know. I don't remember.
I think it was the second. The first one, I distinctly remember we were talking about card games on motorcycles.
Oh, yeah. Card games on motorcycles.
Yeah, but how does that rank?
So I don't actually have an Xbox One controller for comparison, and I've played with them very few times, like at a buddy's house a few times is all I've played with them, so I don't have a good frame of reference for that. I don't like it quite as well as the Xbox 360 controller, which I've been using lately for all my Game Pass stuff, because it plugs straight into my TV and PC. This guy's gonna die. Watch. Ah, he died. I knew that. Sorry for the spoilers, guys. I've played this game once or twice, but yeah, it's I like it okay. I like the grippy texture on the back. I like the triggers really well, actually. The thumbsticks feel like just smaller than normal thumbsticks, which is strange. It's not like awful. It's not game breaking, but I just would prefer a slightly larger one. And kind of, if you look at the shape of the controller, the handles are kind of angled up toward each other a lot more than like the Xbox 360 or the Switch controller, which makes it just have a smaller feel in your hands, which, again, isn't terrible. And some people I've heard have actually really liked that. But I like a bigger controller, so I would prefer like a Switch Pro controller profile or something like that. But no, it's not a bad controller. It gets the job done. Feels good while you're playing, so does what it needs to do.
How's the D-pad?
The D-pad I haven't really used in a ton of games yet, but it has a very satisfying kind of clicky sound. I can push that, and you can kind of hear that on the mic, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe
I can
a little
definitely
bit.
hear that.
Yeah,
that
and
is a very clear clicky sound.
It's very satisfying to kind of use, although I haven't played any games that really make any use, because, like I said, all I've played is Halo and Jedi so far. So, get out of my way, I know where to go. Stupid Marine. Yeah. What are you guys playing?
Why don't you go first? Why don't you go, Crow, and then I'll follow up.
I have not played a video game in over a week.
Oh, man.
I've been playing Clash of Clans on my phone, and that's about it. But I have... I bought... what's it called? Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which I'll be playing that. And Demon's Souls for the PS5, which I'll be streaming for 4 players.
Sweet. So check them out. I've got, I accidentally left Breath of the Lyle's information on here. He was going to come, but canceled at the last minute. So go check him out on Twitch anyway. He's got his, I've got Breath of the Lyle's plug on top of our screen as well. You can also check out Crowbird's YouTube channel, which is linked at the top of the screen here. So check those out. And you can also look up The 4 Players on... You guys are on YouTube and Twitch, or just YouTube?
Right now, just YouTube and Twitter. We don't have the setup for a Twitch.
Okay, no problem. But
we stream from mine and from Perseus's.
Yeah, so check them out. Lots of fun stuff.
Yeah.
So Chris, what have you been playing, Mister?
So as you may be able to see in like the tiny corner of the screen here, while Sean streams, the main course of games, I'm playing a little game called Demon Crawl,
Oh, yeah.
which is basically Minesweeper, but if it was like a roguelike RPG. And something I didn't know about this while I was playing, just as on this podcast, is I apparently clicked to start a new quest, and it actually had story content, really bizarre story content, like a cutscene that I was not expecting because there was no other cutscene in the game.
Nice.
So if you watch that out of the corner of your eye, if you go back a little in this video and you watch that, you can see that. So, but I've been enjoying it. It's like Minesweeper, but a little extra. Also, old standbys, Minecraft, Dead by Daylight, and a lot of the Jackbox Party games, which are a lot of fun. Particularly the more creative ones, the ones where you have to make up, like Quiplash, or the ones where you have to give a speech, an impromptu speech, by the seat of your pants, and people just rate how well they like it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's been my games.
Sounds cool. All right, shall we go into the news? There's a guy there. Never reload.
News and get smacked.
Nooz'N'Booz?
Yeah, so the Nooz'N'Booz this week.
Indeed we shall. So Chicken Police released on Xbox One, PS4, Switch, PC, and Mac. According to the website's description, a wild tale of love, death, chickens, and redemption. Chicken Police is a buddy cop noir adventure with a carefully crafted world, a gritty story, and lots of absurd humor. Is it just me, or am I not able to understand what that's about, even with that little descriptive help?
I feel like you really need to watch the trailer for this game. I had no idea this game even existed, and Xbox's YouTube account uploaded a launch trailer for it earlier this week, and it looks so fucking hilarious, because basically every character in the game is like a human body with an animal head on top of them. And so the main characters are like these chicken guys, and they're making all sorts of weird go cluck yourself kind of puns and, stuff like that. But it seems to be this like detective-y kind of film noir style thing. It looks hilarious. I am pretty sure I am gonna get this game because it's just so fucking out there, man. I can't even like, you read that description.
I read that description, and I'm like, to me it sounds like it's definitely worth looking at.
Yeah,
I'd want to at least learn more about it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if chickens are your thing, sure. I've noticed a lot of people. There's a lot of chicken-based games. I actually, a couple years ago, recorded a game that was called Crispy Chicken, and I truly do not remember a thing about it other than guns were involved in some fashion.
Nice.
Crispy Chicken, guns were involved in some fashion.
Yeah, so maybe it's a sequel.
What? And I cannot stress this enough. The fuck?
Oh, it'd be like that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, indeed it be.
Be it indeed.
2-year-old leak is suddenly discovered, pointing at the possibility of Metroid Samus Returns for Switch. In 2018, a promotional photograph showed the game superimposed on the Switch screen to show off Super Metroid-themed Joy-Con stickers. The same original photo has also been used to promote other stickers from the company.
Yeah, I thought this was a weird thing that, like, suddenly people are looking at this image and being like, oh my god, Metroid is coming to Switch! But it's like, this image has been out in the wild for 2 years and just nobody noticed. Like, I think I saw this and, like, because the image looked familiar, and I was like, I feel like I saw this Switch image and was just like, oh, is that Metroid Prime or something? I didn't put 2 and 2 together and figure out what Metroid game it was, because I figured it's mostly there to just show off the Joy-Con stickers.
Yeah, I'm a little unsure of why people would be extrapolating this much this late in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't call it a hint or a leak at all.
Right.
It seems it's a little bizarre to me.
Yeah, I think Metroid Samus Returns coming to Switch would make sense, but probably not now. I don't know. It seems really soon after. You know, it's only 2 years since its original release. I think fans want it, and so they're kind of taking this story and being like, oh, it means what I think it means.
They should just call it Samus... Or wait. I had a funny thing, and then I forgot it.
That means we have to drink.
Yep.
I'll drink to that.
Mm-hmm. So speaking
Samus's return returns. There you go.
Yeah, the return of Samus returning returns. It's just Samus going to the video store with a day late video and having to pay the extra 75 cents.
Mm.
So speaking of drinking, my Sean drinks something stupid this week in my Master Chief cup is I was trying to think of a Halo themed drink and I was like, well, it's got to have Mountain Dew in it, and Master Chief is a little bit of a crazy bastard, and crazy bastards drink tequila. So I was like, okay, it's Mountain Dew and tequila. That will work.
Do you feel like hurting yourself?
Not much. I mean, if I did, I could have played on Legendary.
Suppose that's true.
Stinking guys. Get out of my way.
You doing alright? You're doing alright.
I think I'm doing alright. I haven't died
What
yet.
difficulty you playing on?
Just normal.
Anything more to say about the quote unquote leak?
I don't think so. I don't think it means anything. That's the short of it.
Mass Effect Legendary Edition announced includes the original trilogy made for PC and consoles, all DLC and all promo items from the original releases coming 2021. I hope they don't EA it up. Mass Effect.
Mass Effect. It's
Mass
a sailing
Effect.
sim.
Mass Effect. I'll take a drink for that.
All right.
Yeah, carry on.
So I played some of the part of the original Mass Effect.
I played, I think, like the first hour of the original Mass Effect, and I was like, this is pretty good. And then I never played it again for no good reason.
I've never played it.
So, yeah.
So am I the person here who's played the most Mass Effect, despite the fact that I didn't even beat the first game?
Probably.
Yeah.
Did you play more than about an hour?
Yeah, I played more than about an hour.
Did you play it at all?
I did.
Then yeah, you got us beat.
Alright.
Right.
I don't know. I'm kind of hoping EA doesn't screw up a re-release. But
Yeah, EA
seems like a
is
pretty
EA, so
straightforward
it's...
thing to do.
Yeah.
It's EA.
Oh, and some consoles got released earlier.
Yeah.
I think that's like a pretty important thing that might have happened, maybe. I don't know.
That happened. That
Probably.
pretty much consumed my life.
Yeah, so, Crow, how are the front lines being a GameStop employee?
It has just been nothing but phone calls. If y'all got that PS5, you guys got a PS5, when are the PS5 pre-orders not being held? They're all gone. We're sold out nationwide. Every store, every warehouse, everything, they're gone.
Yeah.
Like, stop calling people.
It's what happens every console release.
Yeah.
Compounded by COVID.
Yeah. It's fun
Because
stuff.
everybody needs to play video games and stay inside, right? That's what the CDC recommended.
It's true. It's video games beat COVID.
Mm-hmm. Can't get COVID if you're inside playing video games.
Absolutely the truth. Video games, they're good for your health, at least in 2020.
Yeah. I mean, actually, video games helped me lose 10 pounds once. Because I used to work at McDonald's, and McDonald's, when you work there, you eat there a lot. And so I was kind of fat. I mean, I literally still haven't shed all of the weight that I gained there. So I should say still am kind of fat. But in the peak of my McDonald's career, me and my brother both took off a week from work to play the new expansion of World of Warcraft when it came out, when Cataclysm released. And so we literally just took off a week, played video games, and we weren't eating healthy. We were just eating not McDonald's. We were eating like Taco Bell, Long John Silver's, and stuff like that every day, Panda Express, and we ended up both somehow losing 10 pounds on this cockamamie excuse for a diet.
Nice.
Whoa.
Just by not eating McDonald's for a week. No exercise, nothing.
No exercise, just wasting away eating substantially less, feeding on the MMO.
Mm-hmm.
Feeding off osmosis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, how about that other console, Crow? You got that in hand?
I can. Well, hold on. It's on the other side of my office.
Okay. That means we have to drink, because I put Crow on the spot and he was not ready to deliver. Ha ha ha!
I was not prepared. I got my leg. There it is. The box is gigantic.
Look at that.
You okay?
Let me take a drink.
Nice. Yeah, one of the things I actually really liked and appreciated about the Series S was that the box was not overly huge, and it was not even cumbersome to, take out of the box. Literally, once you open the box, it's, literally in your face is your console, and there's, 2 more flaps to open up to get your cables and your controller out. And it's, the best packaging I've ever seen for a console. It's so simple, it's minimalistic, it's not foam after foam after foam, all that kind of thing. So I was very happy with the packaging for the Series S.
So there's just no... you gotta like something like that.
Yeah. It's the little things that I really appreciate.
Yeah.
The one thing I appreciate about this box is it's too fat to fit in any of our GameStop bags. It's got a handle. It's got a full-on handle to carry it out. So
There you go. Awesome.
And also, to maybe get it out of the box. Hold on. These things are air sealed. Hold on.
Here, let's hold our consoles up and see whose is bigger.
I'm a professional, I swear.
Can you even hold yours in one hand?
Oh, yeah, I got it.
I could try lifting up my desktop over here, but I don't think I could. It's pretty heavy.
Nice.
So much cardboard. These things are super protected. Okay, here's the DualSense controller. I've been looking forward to holding this thing for a while now.
Yeah. That's something that
Very
I
nice.
feel like most reviews are really praising it over the Xbox for at least that the controller is actually kind of moving controllers forward instead of basically just being another Xbox One controller.
Yeah, so it looks more like an Xbox controller. It's a lot beefier. This is bigger than any DualShock thus far. I mean, it's a little narrow at the tips, so it makes it hard. My PC's kind of clip underneath, but whatever. But it's bigger and it's heavier than any other PlayStation controller. And as someone who has gigantic fucking hands, I really appreciate it.
That sounds good.
The buttons are nice.
Because that's my problem with my little old Xbox controller here.
It's it's very simplistic, just white and black theme. I very much like it.
Yeah.
And one of my
It looks like a bra.
Yeah, that too. One of my favorite things, and I don't think the camera is high enough resolution to capture it.
Probably,
Yeah,
certainly
there's
not
no-
in this tiny little box you are on my screen for the capture. But
It wouldn't capture it because I can't even see it very well. But you can see high res, you can find pictures online.
Yeah.
The back is textured, and it's textured by hundreds of thousands of little teeny tiny PlayStation symbols. So
Yeah.
the squares, triangles, circles, and X's.
Yeah, I thought that was a really cool little touch on the texturing there.
Also, something that one of my employees taught me today. While the sensor pad lights up, there's actually some LEDs inside the buttons as well, and you can download an app on your PS5 that will change the colors of your buttons.
Huh, that's kind of neat.
That's cool.
Another one of those pointless features that's just like, that's neat.
The more you know.
Yeah.
Universal power cable, that's good. Set that down. DualSense is definitely up there for one of my favorite controllers already, though, just by feeling it. Granted, if it had offset sticks instead of inline, I would like it a lot better.
Oh, I walked off a cliff while I was shooting a banshee. I have to drink.
That's what you get. HDMI.
How
What kind of
dare I?
HDMI is it? That doesn't look like a gold plate. Whatever.
They cheaping out on the HDMI.
Yeah.
Did you get the disc version or the discless?
I got the disc version.
All right, that's the right version for physical game collectors like me. I'm a little sad to have the Series S for that reason, but at the same time, I don't know that I'll ever buy a game for Xbox Series S because it has Game Pass. It's just going to sit under my box and under my TV, and it's going to be a little box that makes Game Pass happen.
Oh. So this is the stand. This thing is customized to be able to fit the series or the PS5, whether standing up or laying down. You can do either one. But it rotates to reveal some like parts inside. I don't know what they do. Probably to fashion the PS5 in place, but that's cool. So there's some more shit. And that's it for the little things, it looks like. And now...
You guys didn't know you were getting an unboxing on this video, did you?
They did if they follow you on Twitter.
They did.
Or me.
Although they also thought it would be live if they follow me on Twitter. So sorry, guys. I tried.
True. They also
We
thought
tried.
that Lyle would be here.
I pushed the go live button and the app said I was live, but the YouTube didn't.
Lyle had to go and sleep like a responsible adult.
How dare he? I work in the morning and I'm slightly worried myself, but you know.
We haven't... There's been like 3 or 4 times where we planned to have Lyle and I on together, and only once has it actually come to fruition.
Yep.
That was last year, wasn't it?
Once earlier, like we did do one together earlier this year. I think there was supposed to be one at the beginning of the year, and then 1 or 2 last year.
Yeah, I thought that was fairly recently, but I don't remember.
He dropped out of 2 of them, and I dropped out of 1 of them. Because, you know, life is... Holy fuck, Fitz. This thing is huge. Look at the size of this thing.
Is it bigger than mine?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just a little?
Too.
Yeah, that's about the size of your torso there. It's
For
kind of what that looks
comparison,
like.
Here's a 360.
Yeah, that is giant.
Gigantic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
heavy
why don't you hold that directly in front of your torso there?
Yeah, is it larger than one human torso?
It's
PS5.
a little bit small. It's about 2/3 the size of his torso.
It is comparable size to a human torso.
Oh, goodness. It's very sleek. It's very nice looking. There's the drive. It's got 2 USB 3 ports in the back, a HDMI Ethernet power cable, and then 1 USB 3 and a USB-C port. Oh, in the front.
That's
cool.
kind of nice, because actually one of the funny things is the USB-C is on the controller for the Xbox Series X and S, but neither the Xbox Series S or X have a USB-C port on the actual system, so you can't actually get the increased speed that USB Type-C could actually potentially grant you, which is also an odd choice, but, you know.
They also textured the inside of the faceplates. These things are textured with the little PlayStation symbols as well. So.
That's cool.
Okay, you fat fuck. There you go.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you your
listening to this.
kind of first impressions, but I guess you haven't actually played anything on it yet, because one of my little niggles with the Xbox is that the system menus are all kind of cumbersome and difficult to navigate. It's hard to find your options that you're trying to look for if you're not familiar with the system. I think everything's just laid out a little weird. I feel like they would have done better to take a more simplistic approach, like on the Switch UI, where it's just like, here is your friends list at the top, your games at the bottom, or your games in the middle, and your options in the bottom. I feel like there's not really any particular reason to have done it any other way. But, I mean, it works, and what's funny is that actually I'm kind of circumventing having to operate the system by doing most of it on my phone, because you can like go into the Xbox app and just like tell your console to download games from Game Pass on your phone, and then when you go home, then it's like, hey look, they're already downloaded and I can play Nier Automata or whatever. So that's kind of cool.
I bought the PS5 media remote. It's a lot smaller than I thought it was. And it's got a little PlayStation button. It's an actual button to turn the system on. I thought it was just a symbol. So. I still don't understand why it has... So it's got buttons designated for Disney Plus, Netflix, and YouTube. Those make sense. But it's got Spotify's number 4 instead of like Hulu or Apple TV or something like that. Like,
well, I guess getting one music app in there on the hotkey is not a terrible idea. But
yes.
I don't know.
Is a little odd.
But I like it.
Yeah. All right, shall we get into our video game topic?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So, our video game topic this week is best system launch memories, and what was the best upgrade from one generation to the next. So just kind of still talking about, console releases. What did you think about this console generation release in general? I kind of think it would be interesting to hear from both of you, because Chris, obviously, you're standing on the sidelines. You don't have anything next gen yet, really, do you?
Yeah, I got
no specific plans to. Yeah, but watching from the sidelines, what have you thought about this one, and how in some cases it's been a total clusterfuck, but at the same time, some of the features and stuff is actually still worth being excited about, I think. What do you think about this console launch generation?
Well, from the sidelines, I'm like, kind of sad that a lot of the kind of camping out, kind of waiting to get a new console sort of thing is, it's kind of hampered by, the pandemic.
Right.
The thing that's keeping most of us indoors all the time.
Yeah.
And, killing people and stuff. So it's a shame that for a lot of people they can't have kind of that experience to make those memories to look back on.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's the problems with getting consoles to people that are endemic with pretty much every single console launch. But that's normal. That's just them not knowing how to deal with supply and demand, apparently, or not getting enough produced immediately.
Right. Yeah, but any big tech release, I feel like that's just an issue. It's always going to be. It was with the Switch. It was even with, the Wii U had supply issues at launch. It's just like, you wait a little while and eventually it'll just all even out and it'll be fine.
Enough is never enough.
Yeah. It's a tricky thing to, manufacture all the millions of units that people want at launch. Unfortunately, it means somebody's going to go wanting, and some scalper is going to make a buttload of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did hear tale of scalpers picking up a whole bunch of consoles and then selling them for insane marked up prices, which I thought was like a solved problem. It's
that was a weird thing because Walmart specifically was one of the kind of places where people were going and like literally they just don't have a rule about it. So I saw one image of a guy that was walking out of Walmart with 6 PS5s that he had just got there, and he was, I don't know if he was just the only guy there and nobody else came to that location or what, but he was he just bought 6 PS5s on launch day. And most people, I think, should naturally be pissed off about that being a thing, but at the same time it's like,
it
was going to happen online anyway. But it's really a hard kind of case. I don't know.
I still think people like that, resellers who find stuff that are in super short supply that people really want, or sometimes stuff that people need, whatever. Stuff that they know like people will pay whatever they charge because they don't have a choice. Like, I think people like that are absolute scumbags.
Yeah. I remember when I was camping out for the Super Nintendo Classic, there was a family in front of me that had, like, the mom and dad, and they pulled their 2 kids out of school for this so that they would have 4 people there to buy 4 of these Super Nintendo Classics. And I was like, that is just super shitty that you're willing to exploit your children because you're going to scalp this shit. You fucking know it. Shoot them, you jackass.
They're scum of the earth.
They're gonna scalp.
Yeah.
This has been a problem forever, and I was like, we kind of knew how to deal with it. I don't understand why why they didn't put a limit on the number someone could buy.
Because Walmart likes money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they'd get their money either way. I guess they just didn't care. Is probably a better answer.
Yeah. It's like with GameStop, we struck a deal with both manufacturers to do everything in our power to limit people to one console. And some slipped through the cracks. Like I did have one that I'm sure happened at my store. It was under the same name, though I don't remember it being the same guy, but you never know. But for the most part, like, we did what we could to restrict people so that didn't happen. But, people who want to be shitty will find a way to be shitty.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like that elite, who's now dead.
Yep, he's a shitty guy. He's trying to shoot me and shit. So I shot him and shit. Booze. But what other kind of memories do you guys have from other console launches other than this one? Is there any specific standouts of good or bad?
Go ahead, Crow.
I haven't really experienced many console launches. I grew up in a Nintendo family, so I didn't really experience the 360 PS3 or the PS4 Xbox One launches. But I do remember like the fiasco of the Wii's, and then the Wii U just slipped my family's radar for some reason. But I was there for my own sake getting the Switch. But I don't know. It's heartbreaking to like have to tell so many people no, like I don't have this and I don't know when I'm going to get this. But it's also really nice for the people who did get like that I did get to see them pick them up, and for the folks who have it and they're able to like buy stuff for their new consoles, like to see how much joy this brings them is really heartwarming. Like it was the same way with the Nintendo Switch. Like everyone was so super happy for anyone that got the Switch. Like I don't know. There's just something special about new hardware.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Switch launch was a really cool one for me because that was the first console I actually bought on launch day. And I remember going into GameStop like the day that they were going to go on pre-order and made sure to get my pre-order in and picking up on launch day. I had to drive across town from work on my, like basically pick up my Switch and then drive directly back to work to finish my shift. So it was a kind of a cool time. But that's the only one I've ever bought on launch day. But I've had a couple others that I have bought, pretty close to launch. I bought a Wii actually surprisingly close to launch because I got my first job right before the Wii launched, and I got like one of my first few paychecks was actually, I was just like on my way to work and I stopped into Kmart for a soda or something walking to work, and I figured I'd, go just look at the video games, and they had one Wii in stock, and I bought it.
Whoa.
I was like, and that was during the whole, nobody has a Wii, and the guy's like, yeah, we got a shipment of 10 in this morning, and that's it. That's the last one. So I was like, dude, that's freaking awesome that I just kind of walked into it. And, with one of my first couple of paychecks, I'm like, I have this much in my bank account and not much else. So I got that, and actually, it was funny because most people were getting Twilight Princess, and you would have thought me, the big Zelda guy, would have got Twilight Princess with the Wii, but I had already played it on GameCube. So I was like,
What's the point?
I was like, I might as well get something different at least. So I got my game I got with it at launch was Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, which actually to this day I think is one of the most underrated Fire Emblem games because I feel like it's a sequel that does pretty well by the original and really kind of stands on its own as a pretty good story.
Oh, that's the one of the Wii sequels to a GameCube games where they're like, oh no, the protagonist is evil, except in that game it actually made sense.
Yeah, because it was actually kind of cool to kind of, reverse the roles because, the whole first game you're playing as Ike and fighting the evil bad guy King of Dayin, and then, the sequel, you go right in and you're, these guys who lived in his country, and from all the citizens' perspective, you couldn't tell that he was this evil, fucked up douchebag that he was. So they were like, oh yeah, Ike is a tyrant that, came in and killed our king, is this merciless bastard, and you're like, oh, this is actually a kind of an interesting take on it, So I really liked that aspect of it, and then eventually they came around once they met Ike, discovered more of the reasons, more of the, what the King of Dayin had been doing behind the scenes that they didn't really know about. So I thought it was just a really solidly put together story. I thought it was, at least as good as the average Fire Emblem game. But I feel like that one gets a bad rap sometimes. I don't think it was as good as the first one, but, what sequel is? Not many. Do you have any hilarious Wii stories, Crow?
No, I was, I was a kid, so I didn't really quite have that great of an appreciation for just how hard they were to find.
Right.
I think I told this story on the show in the past. My dad searched all over town and found the last one in the last GameStop in town, and just got super lucky. So we had a Wii for Christmas that year, and we played Wii bowling probably more than anything else.
Right.
Like,
that was a good go-to party game.
Yeah.
I had a kind of a funny story with the Wii U as well, because the Wii U, like, I expected it to be sold out everywhere, but it was for like a couple of weeks, but it really didn't stay sold out for very long. So I just walked into GameStop one day and I was like, I want a Wii U, and they were like, yeah, okay, we got like 50 of them. Please take them. It wasn't quite that bad, but it was like, they had plenty of Wii U's just on hand, and it wasn't that far into the launch. So, and then that obviously the rest of the Wii U's life happened after that. So,
Right.
we all know that history.
All went down the hill from there.
Yeah. I don't know. I got my money's worth out of my Wii U, so. I leave you alone for 5 seconds and you get fucking blown up. Dumbass Marines.
I'll be right back. I got one more thing when I picked up my PS5.
Ooh, we're gonna see something interesting. Alright. So, why don't we get into the other part of this question, too, while we're waiting for Crow, what was the best upgrade from one generation to the next? Because I feel like there's kind of a lot of ways we could go with this question. Obviously, one of the big ones is going to be, the upgrade to 3D in the 90s on every console, but, that came with its own set of, problems, because people had to figure out, now that they could do 3D, how to do it so that it didn't suck. In some cases, it didn't feel like an upgrade,
I almost want to say 8-bit or 8-bit to the 16-bit era upgrade, because I felt like that's when they started making a lot of the truly classic games and expanding on a lot of things.
Yeah. That's a good way to kind of look at it. Oh god, Marine's dead. Warthog's falling down a hill. I'm not a great driver.
Better keep those kids safe.
Right? I can drive a school bus, but not a Warthog. Funny how that works.
They handle very differently.
They do indeed.
But yeah, I'm thinking, like, the difference between, say, Final Fantasy III and Final Fantasy IV is astonishing.
Yeah.
The difference between A Link to the Past and Zelda 1 and Zelda 2 is pretty incredible.
Yeah, although crazy leaps and bounds there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of a good point. I don't know, because I guess I see your point, but I feel like we need more discussion. Is what I feel like. Because I would be happy with that answer, but I feel like we need to, go in more detail on other parts of the discussion before I'm done. Damn it!
I feel like Crow could give me a challenge here.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Oh God, Crow.
You pulling in your Xbox Series fridge or?
Behold. There's a lot of stuff on my floor.
Is that a giant ass Snorlax?
Snorlax. I got a Snorlax beanbag. He's fucking huge.
Why did that guy get in the passenger seat instead of the gunner seat? What a dumbass. The gunner seat has a bigger gun.
I can't bring it over to my desk because I have too much shit in the way.
Well, stop pooping on your desk.
No, So as far as, console generation differences, I think, obviously, it comes down to experience.
Mm-hmm.
I was too young to really remember the NES to SNES jump. For me, it was an NES to N64 jump. But the fact still remains of... And it's the same reason, people will ask me, why should I upgrade to the PS5 when I got the PS4? What is the difference in experience? And
I died. I have to drink.
While at the time, NES to SNES might have felt like a big change. Is like, oh, look at these clean new, sprites, and look at these crisp, pretty colors and the cool sounds. But like, in retrospect, the difference is not that different. And I know that's kind of an unfair thing to say if you compare to like PS4 to PS5. Like, it's a difference of 8 pixels versus a difference of 8,000 pixels.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest jump has to have been the generation from like SNES to N64. The jump from 2D to 3D. That is a complete change of the entire medium. Gaming as a whole changed.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, the SNES delivered a very different experience from the NES, sure, but not that different. But, I mean, there was so many different games just trying to figure out, what can you do with 3D? How different is it? What is the experience like? Like, it was totally uncharted territory. When the SNES came out, people have been doing 2D for, ages. Like, yeah, going from Zelda 1 to Link's Awakening, or Link to the Past, rather, is quite the jump, and they're two very different, one's very impressive of a game, but you've still got the same general gist. The controls are more or less the same. And the controllers are essentially the same. You just had, I think, like 2 or 3 buttons that are new.
Well, you had 4 face buttons instead of 2, and the big addition for the Super Nintendo was the shoulder buttons, which actually also added in some more potential, which was used in not every game, actually very few games. But an interesting thing that I was going to talk about is what I now realize shouldn't count because it was never released, but Star Fox 2 actually made use of those in order to make a fully 3D explorable world, because you could change your camera with the L and R buttons. So at that point, where do you stand on that? That, what you're saying, the jump from 2D to 3D is Super Nintendo to N64, but to an extent, the 3D era really began in the Super Nintendo before the N64 even released. Obviously, the N64 sort of solidified it, but I would almost argue that in addition to beginning the 3D generation, SNES also has kind of this the quality, the polish that Chris was talking about earlier, where really when you look at any original NES game, it just doesn't feel as good as any Super Nintendo game.
And I think that case can be made for pretty much any generation change within the same medium. Mm-hmm. The NES had a modicum, I would, like, Igoraptor put it best, of a 2.5D is a better way to put it. Like, Zelda had a selective Z-axis, so it technically had a third dimension. Right. Star Fox, you could change the camera angles to move in different directions, so it had a limited third dimension, but it wasn't true 3D. Like, you couldn't move freely in space in any which way you want to go.
Right.
It was 2D looked at in a different perspective, but 2D is still 2D.
Right. 2D or not 2D?
Yes. 2D or not 2D.
I would almost argue that most 3D games you still can't move freely in 3 dimensions.
Right.
That's actually also a good argument.
If the game does not give you the freedom to do so, like, essentially the only games that give you proper 3D movement is spacefaring games, games like Star Wars Squadrons and No Man's Sky, things where all axes come into play.
Yeah.
Whereas games like Horizon Zero Dawn, I mean, yeah, you've got your 360 degrees, but it's still in a linear plane as opposed to full spherical motion.
Right, yeah. I would argue certain games that have a certain amount of verticality and actually use the 3D space well would kind of count, though. Because, like, specifically, really well-designed 3D Zelda dungeons take advantage of all three axes, like you're saying, at least as well. You know, and obviously, you know, you're not literally able to move along all three axes in any combination of directions you want, but you're still interacting with those three axes in tons of different ways in the best designed, you know, 3D kind of games, especially like Zelda. Especially, you know, Breath of the Wild, I would say, for overworld design, and Ocarina of Time for the dungeon design make absolutely perfect use of their 3D space.
I mean, Breath of the Wild 3D space was just on a different level. I mean, the paraglider was a game changer in how people, or at least how I look at video games. Like, at this point now, any 3D game that I play, when I come to, like, a cliff's edge or just a high point and I look down, my first impulse is, oh, I can jump off this and glide down to that point. And then I have to remind myself, like, no, it's just one game. Like, I threw myself off a ledge in Ghost of Tsushima thinking that I had a paraglider before slapping onto the ground and dying.
I totally did the same thing the first time I replayed Ocarina of Time after playing Breath of the Wild. I'm like in the Deku tree, and I just like jumped off of a place to get to the next point, and I'm just like, oh, I can't paraglide.
But there's two other things that I think are like define what makes a good generation transition. Refining a medium is obviously a major thing. Like Chris was saying, or it was either you or Chris, one of the two.
It was me.
Who's already getting to me? I'll have to drink for that. The SNES definitely perfected and refined the 2D generation. To this point, I think that last gen has perfected the 3D generation, but we also have not seen what this new generation of consoles can you know, accomplish.
Yeah, that's a thing that I was thinking. Maybe we'll have to have a discussion a little further in of, you know, is this generational leap really all that much? Because so far my impressions of it are that it's not a huge leap. Obviously, though, I went with the cheaper system. The Series S is, strictly speaking, less powerful than, you know, the PS5 or the Xbox Series X by a fair margin. It's only, you know, max output is 1440p instead of 4K. It can still get the 120 FPS in some games, allegedly, but, you know, until I actually see that in action and how well it works, it's hard to really judge, because just by looking at graphics, also one of the problems is that the Series S doesn't really have a ton of games right now, so most of the games that I'm playing are technically last-gen games, and they look like last-gen games, because they are. You know, Jedi Fallen Order doesn't really look any better than anything I played on PS4. You know, it looks fine. It looks good, but it's not a really very noticeable upgrade. At least at this point, it's also not, you know, mastered perfectly for you know, because one of the things that they're saying is that, you know, when games get a lot of the thing that they're advertising for Series X specifically is like enhanced for Series X or enhanced for Series S, at which point they can reach those 120 FPS, they can reach that 4K, and that's on the developers, and I'm not sure very many developers, at least right away, are going to bother, you know, doing this. They're going to be like, well, my game's already on the system, why not take the free money instead of spending more money to maybe make a tiny bit more, you know?
Right.
It's hard to say really how much you're gaining versus how much you spend out of this, because, you know, how much work does it take to upgrade something to 4K 120 FPS or even 4K 60, depending on what it originally ran at.
Right. But I think in terms of mastering the genre, like that is an important thing, but depending on how much of an effect that actually has is on if that's like an actual determining factor. Because I think while last generation is the best thus far, I don't think it has enough of an impact to make it a bigger generational leap from 360 PS3 to Xbox One PS4 as from Xbox original and PS1 to, or I guess it'd be more like N64 PS1 to GameCube, Xbox, and PS2. Because like the PlayStation 2 had some phenomenal looking games that still aren't bad to look at today. Like Metal Gear Solid 3 still stands out in my mind as the best looking PS2 game. I for the longest time, because I never owned a PS, well, I had a PS2 for a little bit, but I only ever had Need for Speed Underground. But for the first couple times that I watched Metal Gear Solid 3, I thought it was a PS3 game. Not a PS2 game because of how good it looks, and especially when compared to the PS1, where every game looks like polygonal ass. So that could be a good case study for how, you know, same hardware, different generation, the improvement is a marquee thing.
Yeah,
but I think a more important thing, and this is why it's such a big thing for Nintendo and why they still stand so strong, is hardware innovation is the other major thing, which comes down to, you know, that comes along with the whole change in medium thing.
Yeah.
But how much of a different experience are you offering? Because new and different graphics is cool and pretty, but after the first couple games, then you're like, okay, I mean, if I've seen one, I've seen them all. But to go from 2D to 3D, to have, you know, go from home console to hybrid, to go from just, you know, standard games to VR games, like, that's a whole different experience. Something that you can't get on the last generation. And that's what makes a difference, and how, like, what makes a generational gap worthwhile. So we're waiting to see what sort of experience does this new generation give us. Because going from PS2 to PS3, there's no difference in experience. You know, you still got the same game. Going from 3 to 4, the games looked better and they ran better, but the biggest thing was when they added VR, like, that made a huge difference. Nintendo Wii, like, going from 64 to GameCube, okay, you got better games and a better controller, but outside of that, still the same games. Going from GameCube to Wii with motion controls, like, that is, for pun fully intended, it completely changed the game. So...
yeah, that's another thing that I was going to kind of bring up is real big hardware differences in terms of mechanically how you physically play the game as opposed to just the graphics. Because obviously the graphics are, you know, the forefront of a lot of discussions, but I think at least as important, if not more important, is did it actually change the way that you game? Which is one of the impressive things about this generation, has nothing to do with the graphics. Because, like I said, my favorite thing about this is that I can turn on my Xbox, click the Jedi Fallen Order button, and within 10 seconds of turning on my Xbox, I am playing that game. That is fucking nuts with how crazy, you know, games are today. You know, with how much it has to load, and it's loading that all, you know, so quick with the Xbox Quick Start. It's just insane how fast everything happens. So I think that's really the game changer for this generation rather than the graphics. Because like I said, the graphics don't look that much different. I would even say that Jedi Fallen Order on this machine doesn't look as good as Final Fantasy VII Remake on, you know, a last-gen system. But Final Fantasy VII Remake takes 10 minutes to load, or you know, it's not that bad, but it takes a while for most PS4 games to load, you know, at least a couple of minutes. But with the, you know, going into this generation, that's like gone. And another thing I was going to bring up is the hardware difference changing how we play games, going from Wii U to Nintendo Switch. because being able to take full home console quality games anywhere you fucking want, that's a game changer to me. That is, to me, the biggest game changer in gaming. Like, I was like depressed as a gamer through the Wii U generation because I felt like a bad gamer because I chose Wii U. You know, I didn't have either of the other consoles. But, you know, when Switch came along, it was like, it feels good to be a gamer again, and it fits into an actual adult lifestyle. No matter what I'm doing in the day, almost always I can, you know, if I just bring my Switch with me, I can find a spare 20 minutes or something to play something. So I never feel like I'm stressing out about the, you know, little tiny bit of game time I get at home, which sometimes I still have that problem if I'm really big into a PS4 game, that it's like, you know, Doom Eternal is one that, actually, I was going to talk about that briefly because I beat that this week, so yay.
Nice.
Actually, earlier today. Actually, I also beat Breath of the Wild again today. I was going to talk about both of those. But anyways, I can't play Doom Eternal in front of my kids because, you know, they're 6 and 4. This is not age-appropriate content. So I need more bullets.
But to answer your question, I would argue that the biggest generational jump would be from the end of the 2D to the start of the 3D, so SNES to N64.
Okay, that's fair. I died. I have to drink again. And I would still go with Wii U to Switch, because it made gaming possible in some cases where it was not before. Because I played
fun again.
Yeah, I played the original Doom, or not the original Doom, but Doom 2016 I played on Switch. You know, and that was great, and I beat it a hell of a lot quicker than I beat Doom Eternal. I've been, you know, nipping away at that for months, and it was a great experience, but I feel like I really would have rather had it on Switch. I was just too impatient to wait for the Switch port.
Fair.
Although now I can, oddly enough, have it on 2 other consoles before I have it on Switch, because it's also on Game Pass now.
Nice.
And I do still feel like the biggest change was from NES to SNES era, 8-bit to 16-bit, and that had just a lot to do with the amount of memory available to work with. Just being less constrained meant the designs could get significantly more refined.
Yeah.
And I feel like N64 was the first 3D era. Almost, in some ways, there were more limits on it. But again, this is all a very subjective discussion. So
Right.
Yeah.
Like with pretty much any of our discussions, it comes down to, all right, well, we'll just call it a draw.
Right, yeah. So another thing that I do kind of want to say as a game changer that really changes the way we think about playing about games, I want to know what you guys think about going into this generation, specifically for Xbox, because Xbox has a really different take on it, because in addition to the new hardware with the load times and the FPS and blah, 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 and the teraflops, there's this giant focus from Microsoft on Game Pass and using games as a service. And where do you think that will go? And do you think by the end of this generation, will this become standard? And will this really become an innate part of how gaming works?
it needs to go to hell and die.
But it's so cheap, and there's so many games, Chris.
I'm not going to be playing games that I'm going to have to continually be re-upping subscription fee. I want to buy a game and own the game forever.
That's fair. In general, I'm with you, but at the same time, I am with you with, I would have said the same thing about movies, but then when Netflix came out, I was like, oh, I can watch movies. I don't have to own them, And then that way I get to play a lot of games, or on Netflix, I get to watch a lot of movies that I might have otherwise just not picked up because I didn't want to spend, $60 on it or $20 for a DVD.
Here's the thing. In isolation, I think streaming games is a good thing. I don't like what it points to because of what's happened with other kind of games, other like programs as a service models, where it's at first you could buy the program, and then suddenly they transition to a service model, and you can only get the service.
Yeah.
So if they were to do that, that's why I'm saying this needs to go to hell and die before they inevitably try this, because games are software and they're not like movies that you can still go out and buy if you want to.
That's fair. That's a fair concern. It would be willfully ignorant to say that that's not a thing that could happen. We can only hope that that isn't a thing that happens. And I think, like, companies... Like, I think they were trying that with xCloud. And that was the concern with the Google Stadia, that would become the norm. But there was so much pushback and such a failure on Google's part. I think that shows us that, at least for another generation, we're safe from that becoming the norm. So as Game Pass is now, I think it is an excellent service. Like, I think it is the best service in gaming because you don't have to get it. Like, you can just stick with Xbox Gold. But if it is a thing that you want to have, or if, say, you can't afford more than that, like, it's a good opportunity to have a gateway into a bunch of different genres, try out a multitude of different games, and if you don't like them, it's not like if you bought the game digitally, you're just saddled with it, or, if you bought the game physically, I mean, you can sell it back, but at a, like, discounted cost. Like, if you don't like the games, don't touch it again. But I mean, with as many games as you have available to you, like $15 a month, even if you just play one game for that month, like, a lot of games become available to Game Pass at launch or shortly after launch. Like Red Dead Redemption, like, shit, $15 to play that game? Hell yeah. That game is worth every penny of that.
Yeah, I was looking at this actually in my kind of why I chose the Xbox this generation article, which you can catch on TwoGuysPlayingZelda.com. What the hell just happened? Oh, there's a guy with a sword there, and he's invisible.
So
yeah,
go ahead.
In theory, I would be okay with. In theory, if you kept streaming a game or games as a service isolated to how it works now, I would be fine with it. But given that they're always trying shit like, I'm selling this game and I'm also selling this battle pass that you need to pick up to get content updated, and all these spare DLCs. So if you want to get everything, you better pay for that. You better pay that extra dosh. You just know that eventually they're going to try to be like, hey, our game is just a service, and you have to pay monthly or else you won't have access to it.
I mean, technically, games have been doing that for a long time. See every MMO ever.
Yeah.
So, I don't feel like this is as new as we're necessarily making it out to be.
And it depends on, I'm thinking, like, they're going to try this with single-player games.
Yeah.
Or at least some of the, like, really shitty companies are going to try this.
Yeah, and that... Right. That kind of brings me to another point I thought of is, kind of the way that Netflix sort of started this. I feel like Game Pass is sort of starting the precedent, like... They're the first ones to dip their toe in the water, and they're really taking a full plunge. They're really going all in and expecting this to do really well, and I think they're right. I think it's going to do really, really well through this generation. I was seeing that apparently 70% of people who have a new generation Series X or Series S have Game Pass, so that's already a pretty good number. But what do you guys think about, when more people try to do this and then, because down the line it could be ending up like how it is with all the different streaming services right now. Like, everybody seems to want to make their streaming service because it was so successful for Netflix. And then you get things like individual companies that make films trying to advertise their content as a streaming service. So you get the DC, you get the with its like couple of unique shows, and you get the CBS All Access, where it's got like some CBS old sitcoms and some new Star Trek shit, and really that subscribers are only there so that they can see the new Star Trek shit. And that's when I think it will get to a problematic scenario, because what if Ubisoft says, okay, you have to pay $15 a month to buy, to just have access to our games? Could that end up being like as shitty a prospect as it is for various streaming services now for the film industry?
It could be like that and worse, is what I'm afraid of.
Yeah.
Which of course means it. In that case, you might not even have the recourse to piracy if they go down the one route I suggested. Not that I'm advocating piracy. Seriously, if you like a game and you want to support the game creators, you should buy the fucking game.
Yeah.
But in the case of a Ubisoft's game streaming service, it just sounds like a good reason to check out of those things entirely, like Ubisoft and like EA specific, and then what is it? I'm sure Epic Game Store would want to get
right. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Hey, pay $15 a month and you get unlimited access to Fortnite and Unreal Tournament and all that shit.
Yeah.
Something like that. But at that point, that most people would just be playing Fortnite. They're just paying the $15 for Fortnite.
Right.
Yeah.
It kind of comes down to how they market it, how they, make it work. And at the end of the day, though, I feel like most of these things for video games, at least, would at least have the option to buy as well. Because if you say to Ubisoft, hey, yeah, I'll pay, $70 for your next Assassin's Creed game, right? Then they're not going to say no. If you don't want to subscribe and you want to pay $70, I bet they'll let you, at least for the foreseeable future. So I don't think we'll get quite into the hole that, all the streaming services are for the other stuff, where it's like, I would like to subscribe to CBS All Access to watch that Star Trek shit, but it's not worth the buy-in price for me for just some Star Trek shows, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't need another streaming service for one show. Or even, I think there's 3 of them now, because there's like the something about the holodeck, and there's a Picard show, and something else. So it's like, it all sounds really cool. I would love to watch these shows, but I don't want to I don't want to pay that much extra on top of, I'm already paying for Disney and Netflix. I'm like, that's plenty, Sometimes I think that's too much content, but, I use both of them, so I'm like, it's good enough.
Makes sense.
So I don't think we're going to get that deep into that hole, at least in the foreseeable future. I think we could get into that hole eventually, but I feel like game developers are going to let you, like I said, you want to pay $70 for Assassin's Creed? They're going to fucking let you.
I think the biggest thing, and this will be the last thing that I contribute, and then I gotta go because I have some other shit I need to do.
Okay.
I hate to cut and run.
That's all right. I think we'll cut the podcast after that then, because we've got... I actually forgot to pick a table topic.
Nice. Good job.
Truncated podcast.
Yeah, so I have to drink.
Yes. I think the
Ugh.
biggest thing that is like the deciding factor for whether they do it or not is money. Like at the end of the day, all corporations want money, and so if the only option to play games is through a service like Game Pass, obviously the developers will want a cut of Game Pass to
Yeah.
be able to pay for their game. So
Mhm.
if they're only charging $15 a month, then the more games you have, the more it dilutes the profits, the less everybody makes. And sure, they could run up the price, but then you run the risk of alienating people and them just not making enough, like just that people not buying it, and so they don't make any money. So I don't think we're going to see that become a reality for a while until they find a viable business model. And if they do, like, if it does come to that, I don't think it's going to be some sort of end all be all type thing. Like, I think there will be an understandable thing about it. Because, again, money comes down to it, and if they lose their customer base, they lose their money.
Yeah.
And with that, I am signing off for the night. You guys can wrap up without me, I presume.
I suppose.
I mean, if anybody doesn't know who I am or where I'm at this point, then they've probably not seen your
It's
show.
actually on screen right now. If you want to follow him on Twitter, he's got his handle on screen, as well as his YouTube information right there. So check out Crow. He does other stuff. He's also with the 4 Players. So thanks for coming again, Crow. And as always, I'm your host of Drink to the Past. Sean Michael Patrick Thompson is my name. And I've got my glorious co-hosts.
Hi, I'm Chris. Excited to not have to think about politics for at least a month. Audette. You can find my writings on itch.io and DriveThruRPG. I've written House of Flowers, a D&D, old school D&D-ish compatible adventure that you can pick up for any price you like, including the price of free. I also co-wrote 5 Cataclysms Core Rules Beta Edition with another often reoccurring guest on this show, Nick. And you can pick that up for any price you like. You can also pick up Nick's Adventures, and they are good. They cost money, but they're well worth the price.
Yeah, so check them out. And then we're going to head to our last segment of the podcast where we just talk about, inane random stuff until somebody says something really awkward, and then I can cut off the podcast. So, I beat Doom Eternal, like I was saying earlier. I was kind of disappointed by the final boss. Have either of you played through all of that? Probably not, Chris. You don't play much shooters.
I haven't played Doom.
I haven't played that.
Mm-hmm.
Most I've watched is one of my friends watched her play it for a little bit, and she had the Unicorn Slayer hot pink outfit.
Nice.
So that was fun.
Yeah. So I won't spoil anything, but I didn't care that much for the final boss fight. But overall, I liked the game pretty well. Not as well as Doom 2016. I feel like it was bogged down a little bit by the kind of random platformy elements that, weren't badly designed, but just felt out of place. And a couple of the boss fights were just... It's alright.
Sight?
Yeah.
It's kind of a shame.
Yeah. And I also beat Breath of the Wild today, because I finally finished through my last playthrough, collecting all the memories again, because I wanted to just hype myself up for Age of Calamity next week, basically.
And next you're going to beat Breath of the Wild for skipping out on us.
Yeah. I'll
beat
him good. Or something.
Yeah. Put him in your sex dungeon.
As long as I don't beat him off,